Part 4 on grief. I know grief is one of the things that nobody wants to go through, but it is what it is. Chapter 14, Understanding Grief. We often associate grief with the death of a loved one, but we can also grieve at other times too. Anything that feels significant to us can trigger a grief reaction if the ending was not caused by death. We have fought our way through a pandemic that changed our lives. Along the way, we lost friends, family, livelihoods, jobs, family businesses built over generations. We lost financial security, found moments with loved ones, and precious time to hold and be close to them. We lost a sense of certainty about what the future holds and access to a social support that would help us cope with that. The profound losses experienced by so many have changed the world and left a psychological fallout that is heavy with grief. For anyone feeling the effects of a loss, these are some things to remember. So, grief is normal. I have met so many people who tell themselves that they are failing at life because they are struggling to cope with grief. They make broad judgments about their strength of character, as if grief is a disorder or a problem that should be fixed. Grief is a normal part of the human experience. It is a normal process to go through when we are expected the loss of someone or something that we have loved, needed, felt connected to, and that held meaning in our lives. Sadness can be a part of grief, but there is so much more to grief than sadness. It can be a deep yearning for the person who is gone, relationships at their core of what it is meant to be human. Among the people I have met in my career so far, their human connections have been the most meaningful aspects of their lives. When the relationship ends, the need for that connection doesn't stop. Your body grieves too, as explained in previous chapters, everything we think and feel within the body. Grief is no different. The loss of a loved one is a huge psychological and physical threat. The pain can feel both emotional and physical. The stress response is repeatedly triggered. In talking about things that help us through grief, let's be clear on what's meant to help. Things that do not make the pain disappear, or make us forget, or force us to let go. Help might be as simple as finding out that the roller coaster of emotions that you feel is normal. It might be finding new ways to sit with and process the pain in a safe and healthy way. Grief can feel intolerable. It makes absolute sense that the most human response to that might be to block it out. The pain is so intense and vast that it is terrifying, so we push it away if we can. But when we block one emotion, we tend to block them all. We can be left feeling hollow, numb, and struggling to find meaning and to engage with life in the way we once did. If we find a way to push it all the way down under the surface, maybe by keeping really busy, numbing ourselves with alcohol, or with denial of what has happened, we may feel like we're doing okay. Then something small that seems insignificant blows the lid off, and this world of pain explodes, leaving us in shock and questioning whether we can cope. Unresolved grief is the association with depression, the S word, and alcohol abuse. So denying our grief and pushing it away feels like self-protection, but in the long term can be the opposite. How easy it is to say all of this, how hard it is in reality to experience it. When we block out our pain, it is for a good reason. An ocean of grief, as deep as it is wide, it feels too big, too much, and never ending. How do we possibly face something like that? We can start by understanding what to expect. We can also make sure that we get to know what helps us navigate the experience. Then we take things one experience at a time. We take a few strides into that ocean of grief. We feel it. We breathe. We step back and rest for a moment. Over time, we learn to take more steps, going deeper, immerse ourselves, knowing that we can safely return to the shore. Feeling the grief does not make it disappear, but we learn to build up our strength to know that we can be reminded and yet still return to engage with life as it is today. Chapter summary. Endings that can feel significant can trigger a grief reaction, even if the end is not caused by death. Grief is normal and a natural part of being human. The pain can feel both emotional and physical. Things that help do not make the pain disappear or force you to let go. Trying to completely block out grief can lead to further problems down the line. Alright, so chapter 15, the stages of grief. You might have heard about the stages of grief as originally described by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Since then, it has been established that they are not experienced in stages, and they do not happen in any particular order or time frame. But they do describe some of the most common experiences that can be part of a normal, healthy grief. It is important to remember that these are not a prescription for how you should be grieving. They are not a rule book for the type of grieving. They are descriptions of experiences you might notice along the way. So if you recognize any of them in your own experience or in a loved one, just know that these are part of a normal, healthy grief. Denial. Denial, in short, can help us survive the overwhelming pain of grief. It does not mean that we deny any of its happening, but there may be a gradual pacing of how you may take on board the situation you are facing and the new reality that awaits you, whether you choose it or not. Over time, denial begins to fade, and this allows a new wave of emotions to surface. Anger. Underneath anger is often intense pain or fear. When we allow ourselves to fully feel that anger and express it, we can bring those other emotions to the surface and work on them. But many other people have been taught that to fear anger and to feel ashamed of expressing it. So we often hold it under the surface. But like holding air underwater, it soon bubbles up in another time or place. An outburst at a friend or a doctor or family member that appears out of character. Anger is there to agitate us to move and make something happen. When we experience anger about something that we cannot control, using physical movement helps us to use that physiological arousal in the way it was designed to be used. Venting in a way that can be helpful to use that energy generated by anger and bring ourselves back down to baseline, at least for a while. Once the body is calm, you're then able to access the cognitive function necessary to get clarity on your thoughts and feelings, or any problem solving that needs to be done. It can be helpful to do this with a trusted friend or a loved one who can support you, or by writing things down. We know from the research that ruminating alone on angry feelings can make the anger and aggression more intense rather than less. Trying to do any sort of deep relaxation exercise before you have used physical action to move through the anger and bring your level of arousal back down may be too difficult. But once you have expressed it in any way that best suits you, using guided relaxations can be helpful to replenish the body and mind until the next wave of anger arrives. Bargaining. Maybe this occurs in fleeting moments. Maybe it is hours or days spent ruminating over the what if and if only thoughts. This can easily lead down a path towards self-blame. We start to wonder what could have been different if we had made different choices at different times. We may start bargaining with a god if we have one, or the universe. Or maybe we promise to do things differently from now on and devote our lives to making things better in some way, trying desperately in our mind to make it all okay again. We just want things back to the way they were. Depression. The word depression here is used to describe that deep loss and intense sadness and emptiness that follows after a bereavement. This is a normal reaction to loss and does not necessarily indicate a mental illness. Depression is a good response to a depressing situation. Sometimes people around us can feel frightened by it and naturally want to help fix it or cure it, or worse, want to snap you out of it. But recognizing depression as a normal part of a healthy grief means that we can soothe ourselves through the pain and work hard to re engage with normal life and look after our well being as much as we can. The ideas and tools covered in Section 1 still apply here. But we also don't have to deny pain or push it down and hide it, as I will explain later. Acceptance. When we give grief the time and space it needs, we begin to feel more able to step forward and play an active part in life again. Acceptance can be misunderstood as agreeing with or liking the situation. This is not true. In acceptance, the new reality is still not okay. It is still not as we want it to be, but we begin to take on a new reality, listen to our needs, open up to new experiences, and make connections. It is also important to point out that acceptance is not an end point in grief. It may be fleeting moments in which you have found a way to live a new reality. There may be other moments when you return to bargaining and yearning for that person. Going back and forth between these states is normal, and is to be expected as you face all new challenges and experiences in your life. This means that if you have started to find new moments of contentment or joy, things seem to be going okay. And then you find yourself overwhelmed with a new wave of anger or sadness or anything else. That does not mean you have gone backwards. You're not getting grief wrong. Grief comes in waves that we cannot always predict. Chapter summary. Denial can help us survive the overwhelming pain of grief. As denial fades, this allows new waves of emotions to surface. When we experience anger about something that we cannot control, using physical movement helps us to use the physiological arousal and bring the body back down to calm for a while. Ruminating over the what ifs can easily lead down a path of self-blame. Depression is a normal reaction after a bereavement. Acceptance is not the same as liking or agreeing to a situation. Chapter 16. The tasks of mourning. So how do we begin to get through this intense, confusing, and often chaotic experience that we call grief? William Worden, 2011, described what he thought were the 4 tasks of mourning. Number 1, to find some acceptance in a new reality after the loss. Number two, to work through the pain of grief. Number 3, to adjust to an environment in which that loved one is missing. Number 4, to find a way to keep a connection with them in a new way while also engaging in life as it is now. After the loss, people deal with grief in different ways. While some are oriented towards the feeling, the pain and emotions that arise, others focus on trying their best to distract themselves from the overwhelming emotions. Neither of these are wrong. In fact, we need both. We cannot work through the grief all in one go and feel that emotional pain without rest. But we cannot do the work through grief without allowing ourselves to space to feel it. So the work becomes a process of movement between feeling the pain and replenishing the body and mind with something distracting or comforting that allows you to break down between the waves of emotion. So spending time with emotions that come up, whether you've made an active choice to go there by looking in a memory box or visiting a memorial, or if that emotion rose up without choice, is a necessary part of the process. It allows the feeling to unfold and be expressed through talking, writing, or weeping. When you feel the need to step back from that, it helps to turn your attention to something that brings the stress response back down. Using the self-soothing skills from section 3 can be helpful, see here, especially when the pain has been overwhelming. Grounding techniques may also be helpful here, but there is no prescription set, as every individual, every relationship, and therefore every grieving response is unique. The key is to finding something safe that allows you some time for restoration, even if that time is short. One of the problems with the trying to get on with it mode and not allowing ourselves to focus on the loss at that point is that it can take relentless effort, and there is no break from that. We might need to stay busy for the fear of being overwhelmed if we press pause, so we become stuck. We are unable to rest because of the work that is keeping the pain at arm's length is constant. When pain is vast, the actions that we take to push it down and keep it under the surface can cause damage to both the individual and their relationship. If you disconnect with one emotion, you disconnect from them all. Feel whatever is there. It is okay when you are grieving to feel everything. It is okay to feel despair. It is okay to feel rage. It is okay to feel confused. It is okay to feel joy. It is okay to smile if that is the moment that it takes you. It is okay to enjoy the warm sun on your face for a moment or laugh at someone's joke. It is all okay. It is okay to feel guilty when you start allowing yourself to live again, but allowing small moments of joy to wash over you is just as important to the process of grieving as allowing the pain to. Over time, we learn to engage with life and recognize that does not mean forgetting. The love and the connection continues. Small steps forward every day. Do not underestimate the power of the small steps forward. If standing upright and washing your face every day feels like a battle, then let washing your face each morning become the current goal. Meet each chapter from where you are and push it where it moves. No expectations. Expectations are how you should feel, how you should behave, and how quickly you should heal, only making grief harder. Many of those expectations come from a history of our misunderstanding about grief as a taboo subject. Thanks to some pioneers in this area of research, we now have a better understanding of the process of grief and how to help ourselves through it. The expectations lead people to falsely believe that they are going mad, getting it all wrong, weak, and alone. In reality, all the feelings, ups and downs, are all part of the normal process. The lack of conversation about grief leads us to worry about whether we are getting it right. The opposite to this, and a much more helpful approach, is cultivating a compassionate connection with yourself and others. One that allows you to express your feelings in a safe place. Expression. Expressing how you feel is not always easy. Some have the urge to talk. Others clam up and can't find the words. If you want to talk, find someone whom you can trust and start talking. If you have all those very normal fears about being a burden, upsetting the other person, say so. A good friend will tell you what they can manage. If you cannot talk, write. In whatever the words come up to you. The act of getting those thoughts and feelings out on the page can help to unravel what is going on in your mind and body. It is through the processing of those painful feelings that the work of grieving is done. Some people find expression through painting, music, movement, or poetry. Whatever offers a safe avenue for you to release and express that raw emotion is worth making time and space for. If you are not sure where to start, just start with anything that comes naturally to you. Start with the thing that has helped in the past, or start with something just because you're curious about how it might be. If you don't have a therapist to hold the boundaries for you, this is something you can do to ensure that to step into and back out of the emotion. There's a time to feel and a time to block, a time for turning towards and a time for turning away, to rest your mind and body. So if you're going to spend some time releasing and expressing that emotion, have those safety nets that help you back. Remembering and keep living. Remembering someone causes pain, and engaging in the present without them causes pain. These two experiences can feel like a war with each other. The demand of life keep coming, and just one memory can crop up and bring you to your knees. Perhaps one of the things that changes over time with grief is bringing together one of these two things, or the discovery through trying of a way the two needs can coexist. The need to engage in life and the need to remember and stay connected with the person lost. This could be the making time for moments that celebrate their life, spending time in rituals that help you to continue your relationship with them, while also making deliberate choices every day to live in a way that honors both past and future. The work of grief appears to be stepping into your pain, allowing it to wash over you, soothing and supporting yourself through it, and stepping out of it again and into a life as it is now, finding ways to rest and nourish the body and mind through the exhaustion of grief. Grow around the wound. The wound that is left following a loss is not something to be fixed or healed. We do not want to forget that person. We want to remember them and continue to feel connected to them. So the wound does not diminish or disappear. It remains while we work hard to build a life around it. This is a concept that many people find helpful in therapy. The person is just as important to you as they ever were, and so the pain of losing them continues. But we find a way to acknowledge their life while beginning to grow and create a life with meaning and purpose alongside that grief. You find ways to remember, celebrate, and feel your connection to that person and keep living. You learn that pain, joy, and despair, and meaning can all be a part of life. You learn what you are capable of surviving, the depths of which you can pull yourself up, and from that, you keep going. When to get professional help. Going to a counselor or therapist does not mean you are getting the grief thing wrong. You need support to get you through the pain of grief. But not everybody has someone that they can trust or talk to openly with. The therapy room can become a sanctuary, a safe space to release raw emotion with someone who is trained to sit firm with you through that. The therapist can help you to make sense of things, use skills to help you manage safely, and manage more about grief. And listen in a way that you have never been listened to before, without judgment, advice, or attempts to minimize and fix things for you. Therapist knows that the work of grief through the pain, and their work is to walk through it with you and offer a guide when you need it. Chapter summary. Grief demands that we work through the pain. It takes time to adjust to a life in which a loved one is missing. We need to find a way to keep that connection going with the loved one without their physical presence. Acceptance of the new reality means that we continue to engage with the things that matter to us. Whether you feel it is okay to do that, to feel that. Do not underestimate the small steps and the steady progress.